Hi guys, I'm a forester here. I'm out for my morning walk. I'm on the river walk along the Catawba River in western North Carolina. This is near where I was born and raised. It's a beautiful morning. It's getting a little warm now. I haven't done a video in a couple of weeks and really didn't come prepared to do a video now, but I thought I'd just make some random observations about nature that I see along the way as I walk along this river. Mainly about the riparian forest. This is a burl, B-U-R-L, in a river birch. I'll show the top of it so you can see river birches. They generally spread out, grow along the river, of course. That's why they're called river birches. But these burls are the tree's response to some type of injury, either insect injury or disease, and it's its way of trying to seal that off. And this tree looks like it's successfully done it. The burls are valuable for woodworking. Now, I don't know about birch in particular, but a lot of burls are used in woodworking. For those of you that may not recognize it, this is a Carolina hemlock or eastern hemlock, and it's covered up with poison ivy. Now, this is a random observation, but I think I've noticed a lot more poison ivy in recent years than I have in the past. Whether that's a sign of climate change or not, I'm not sure, but I've noticed There's a different set of tree species that grow along the river in the riparian zone. Let's just take a random sample as we cross the river. Here's a black walnut, Juglans nigra. It's known for its wood quality. Okay, swinging around. You've already seen this one. This is a river birch, Betula nigra. Generally grows right on the riverbank. Okay, here's a species right here, yellow poplar, Liriodendron tulipifera. Now it needs well-drained soil. It's not going to grow well in boggy soil, but it does grow in the wetland if the microsite is dry or well-drained. One thing you'll notice is you see more hardwood than pine. In fact, looking down the river, I really don't see any pine. There might be some hemlocks right there, but it's hard to tell at this distance. I'm just looking at the tops of them. Okay, I'm on the other side of the river, and really I just saw a lot of river birch and yellow poplar and some of the species that we already talked about. Here's a new one. It's an oak, and there are a lot of species of oak, but this one is water oak. Makes sense, doesn't it? It's growing near the water. The leaf is fairly unique. It looks sort of like a club with a couple of knobs on the end. Here's a close-up of the water oak leaf. Here's the leaf of a different species. This is just a small tree, but it grows along the river. It's very common. It's Acer negundo, and that's box elder. It always reminded me the leaf shape and a pattern of poison ivy, except it has leaflets of 5 instead of leaflets of 3. Here's a close-up of a different species we haven't seen before. This grows near the river, and it's American sycamore, Platanus occidentalis. The leaves are unique, easy to recognize, and the bark is also unique. It flakes off in long sheets, and it's sort of a mottled color, cream, green, and maybe some grays. Here's a good view of the sycamore bark that I was talking about. Let me come on down and see if you can get a better idea of it. It comes off in sheets and leaves sort of a mottled appearance, like that right there. Here's another non-native invasive. Came to us courtesy of England this time. A lot of ours come from China. This one came from England. Bradford pear came from England also, I believe, but this is privet. And it has taken over the bottomlands along a lot of streams. It takes a lot of work to get rid of it. Okay, here's an interesting tree. The Latin name for this one is Robinia pseudoacacia. It has compound leaves. The leaflets alternate as they go up the stem, as you see there. And this tree also has spines that occur right there in the leaf scar. And here's the thick bed of poison ivy. Now just imagine as a forester having to work in this stuff all day long. I've had my share of poison ivy. Something else I noted is this tree right there. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's an escaped horticultural plant, Bradford pear. One of the advantages of working outdoors is that you can take a snack anytime you come across some of these wild plants. These are just blackberries that are growing out in the open. They need some sunlight. The other thing I commonly find are huckleberries. Okay, here's some woods graffiti. This is an American beech tree, Fagus grandifolia, I believe. And this is actually my favorite species of tree. I showed a tree where it's a family history tree on some family property that looks a lot like this, except we know all the names and initials on that tree because they're family members. You know, this might bother some people, but I don't know. I sort of like it because of the family history tree that we have, but this is my favorite tree. Here's another non-native invasive. This was brought over to stabilize the land, old worn out ag land that was eroding. And this is kudzu. I think this was another gift from China, or we borrowed it from China. Can't blame a lot of these, the countries where these plants came from, because we brought them over here for a purpose and didn't plan thoroughly. They did stabilize the land, but they also took over a lot of places. Sometimes it pays to look down, because I was looking down here and noticed this seed that's on the ground or on the walkway. That's green ash seed. So you look up then, and what do you know? There's a green ash tree above. Here's a row of non-native invasives that's popular right now. We're planting a lot of them. These are Leyland cypresses. They come from a horticultural garden over in England, crossed between two different plants, a hybrid, and very popular right now in the Christmas tree industry and the horticultural industry. Maybe we haven't learned a thing in all the years. This is a local plant, this tall one with the spike. It's called mullen, and I learned from my grandmother that this was used back in her day for a home remedy. They made a tea out of it called Mullen Tea. It's easy to recognize. The leaves are very fuzzy. Reminds me of maybe a lamb's ear. But you harvest the leaves, hang them up in a smokehouse like to dry, and then in the winter you make a tea out of it. It's a good cold remedy or sore throat remedy. I don't know, this looks like a non-native invasive, doesn't it? See all these sprouts coming up all over the place, some fairly healthy like that right there. But no, it's not non-native. It's a native plant, switchgrass. I'm not positive on the Latin name. I think it's Arundinaria gigantea, but that's a native plant. Folks, I'm coming up on where I worked, my first job after high school. That area right out there, it was a seed orchard, Edwards Nursery and Seed Orchard, and it was the best education I ever received in my life. My idea was I was going to graduate from high school, work at Edwards Nursery, and just make a career there working at home. And I worked for a fella who was the straw boss over a field crew. I was on the field crew. The supervisor that I worked for, the straw boss, he had worked here for 20 years to work his way up to straw boss. That was the education that I was talking about. So I decided to go on to school and went into forestry. And the orchard that I worked at has been converted into a frisbee golf course. Now all these trees are grafted. I think I've showed grafting in previous videos, and it looks like it's getting a good bit of use. There's a couple playing up there and some more out there. I've never played it myself. I'd probably not be any worse at it than regular golf. I did want to show you the leaves of this tree. This is the most common hardwood, probably in the southeast, definitely in South Carolina, probably in North Carolina, but it's this leaf right here. That's the sweet gum leaf, and it looks like the palm of your hand spread out with 5 lobes. Liquidambar styraciflora. And what do you know, another non-native invasive. This one is called the mimosa, and this one is courtesy of China. It has some beautiful flowers on trees that are out in the open. I'll take a picture of that flower later. But this one was actually a popular tree locally. This is in Morganton, North Carolina, where I'm taking these pictures. And mimosa was known, I think, as the mimosa capital, and lined streets with this tree, and of course it got loose. But we have a lot of local attractions named for this tree or this plant. The Mimosa Theater, the Mimosa Bowling Lanes. It was a really popular tree, but it is a non-native invasive and has taken over in a lot of places. Here's a lot of sycamore regeneration. It just made me think hardwoods regenerate in a number of ways. They regenerate from seed, but they also come back from stump sprouts and also root sprouts. So they have several mechanisms to regenerate. All right, I'm going to bring this to a halt. I have about 4.5 miles. I'll do a little more walking later. Hope y'all have enjoyed it.